Hello again, it is me, Derek Robbins from Tomcat Gas Training, and welcome to this video all about this. So this is the Baxi 600 combination boiler. But before we get into this video about this Baxi, please could you take some time to subscribe because it helps, and don't forget to hit that notification bell because you want YouTube to tell you exactly when I upload videos. I think you should know by now it's Mondays and Wednesdays. But also, before we get into this video, I'd like to thank Dave Lucas, the area sales manager for where we are in Manchester, for loaning me this boiler, and also Big G from GCH Plumbing, who's organised it for me. Cheers Big G, cheers Dave. So, as usual, let's now stop waffling and filling and let's get on with it. Now, first thing, this Baxi 600 was actually launched in November 2017. So it's now getting to an age where we might need to start repairing these boilers if the customer has not had it serviced and its warranties elapsed. So, like a lot of you know, when I do my insider boiler casing videos, I'm mainly talking about the older boilers for when we come to fix them, because we don't need to really worry when the manufacturer is doing it. Now, this 600 is in a family. It's in a family with the Baxi main compact, the 600 and the 800. So that's kind of the series, and they're pretty much the same boiler. Well, they are exactly the same on the inside. The only slight differences are in the main compact, the front's slightly different to make it look like a different boiler, and Baxi have sneakily put a bracket across the top of the boiler casing at the back to stop you piping up the back. So it's sneaky of old Baxi that, but they've done that so you'll then go to the 600 range, because the 600 and the 800 you can pipe up the back, so they say they're a cupboard fit. So a lot of boilers what do say they're a cupboard fit, you can't pipe up the back. But with the 600 and the 800 you can. Now, the warranties for these boilers, the main compact is a 5-year, the 600 is a 7-year, and the 800 is a 10-year, and you get a free RD magnetic filter as well. So that's another one of the main differences, is just basically the warranty. Now, the price difference between the Baxi main compact and the 600 is about 200 quid. But for that 200 quid difference with the 600, you can pipe up the back and you get an extra 2 years on your warranty. So that's what your 200 quid's for. And I do believe the 600 is coming out at about 780 quid including VAT, which I think is a pretty good price for a well-made British boiler. Well, I hope we can still class Baxi as a British manufacturer. Well, they are made in England anyway, so that's good. Now, the 600 and the 800 come in 24 kilowatts, 30 and 35 kilowatts, but the main compact only comes in 24 and 30 kilowatts. So again, if you want the higher range kilowatts, you'll need to go to the higher priced boiler. So again, a bit sneakier Baxi that. So that's the introduction to the boilers and the differences between the Baxi main, the 600 and the 800. So let's get at it now, and let's start taking this boiler apart and find out exactly what the 600 has to offer. Now, here it is in all its Baxi splendour, taken out of its special carrying box. So, as usual on inside a boiler casing, let's start at the top and work our way down to the bottom. Now, always remember, before you can start messing around with a gas boiler, you must be gas safe registered. And before you touch the appliance, you need to make sure you do your safe to touch test using your non-contact voltage indicator. Now remember, this is a safe to touch test, not safe isolation, which a lot of guys get confused with. So just make sure you prove this, then we can use it, then we prove it again, and then we can touch it. So that's the health and safety bit over. Now we can get on with it. Let's start with the actual flue itself. So the flue I just shoved on top of this boiler is Baxi's telescopic flue. So it says top on here and it says top on the terminal, so always make sure they're reading at the top of the flue system. Also, the joints need to be taped with the tape supplied by Baxi, and always follow the manufacturer's instructions when you're doing the telescopic flue or any other flue really. And also Baxi say no white showing outside on the flue system because it's not UV protected. So that's the actual flue pipe. Read the manufacturer's instructions for the flue lamps, but they are pretty good on the flue lamps. Now the turret itself is one of the, what I call the better ones, because the test points are at the front of the boiler, not on the elbows, where if like this the elbows turn to its side, it's hard to get your analyzer in. But this little one here, test point here, that's where you do your products of combustion test. And obviously that makes this one your flue integrity test one. Now one of the things I found out with these little plugs is this little lug here can snap off quite easily. So just be aware of that. And always lubricate the O-ring before you put it back to make it easier next time you're doing your service. So if we come round the flue, you can see there is a little mark here for screwing, and it supplies 2 screws now where you screw through the plastic to secure the flue, because it will come off incredibly easy. So they've supplied screws now on either side to fix the actual flue elbow to the turret, but you can see you can actually spin the flue in any direction. So this is another thing I quite like about this boiler. The Schrader valve for the expansion vessel is on the top of the boiler. So you don't even have to take the casing off, but it's just a standard Schrader valve to check your expansion vessel. So that's good. Also, you can see the bracket here, which Baxi supply for you to fix your pipes up the back. So we'll go around the back in a minute and you'll be able to see how easy the pipes go up the back. So they supply this bracket so you can fix it to the wall, and it secures your pipes in place before you obviously put the boiler on. So that's pretty much the top of the boiler. Let's have a quick look round the back then and see this space for the pipes. So there you can see the bracket in all its glory. So you can pass all the pipes up the back, but 3 on this side. So this would be your flow, your hot water and your gas, and your cold water and your return on that side. So this is on the fancy stand, but you can see the space that Baxi provide for the pipes to come up the back. And like I said, where this bracket is here, this is where, for the Baxi main, they put that steel bracket to stop you going up the back. So, pretty good idea, and every boiler really should have this idea, because it makes it so much easier when you come to pipe them up. And you can see the pipes go on the valves there. So that's the back of the boiler. Let's get this front cover off and find out what it's like inside. So dead easy, there's just literally 2 screws underneath here. So always make sure, read the manufacturer's instructions for your space required underneath to be able to do that. So you just slacken the 2 screws off and it just pulls forward. And there's just basically 2 little lugs sticking up at the top here, and it just lifts off. So if we take a look on the back side now of the front cover, you can see the insulation, and you can also see the seal all the way around this front cover. Now if this was missing or broken to our new iGEM G11, this would say this would be at risk, and obviously if we had products of combustion coming out, it would be immediately dangerous. So always inspect this seal to make sure it's still here, because it serves as the seal for the combustion chamber. So, front cover. Also, the sides are removable on this boiler. So both sides are removable. So if you're struggling to get access through the front, then you can actually take the sides off, and there's just 3 screws holding it together. There's one at the top here, one at the top here, and then one down at the bottom down here. So even if you wanted to completely strip this, you can actually take the sides off. Makes it so much easier. Again, not every boiler's sides come off, and every boiler is designed so that everything can come out the front, because it's a cupboard fit, you could actually have cupboards either side, so everything still has to be able to come out the front. Removable sides. Well done, Baxi. Now we're confronted with the boiler itself. So we've got the control panel here, and see, they've got a little display. We've got the pressure gauge on the front, and we've got the 2 control knobs. This one's for central heating, and this one's for hot water. Now, this isn't the best display you'll ever see on a boiler. There are far better displays and far easier ways of actually getting into the programs. And before you even get it up and running, we have to do something with this control knob. So let's have a look at this control knob first, and let's see the fault codes and find out what this display is like. Now, to first turn this boiler on, you need to put the central heating knob into minimum and then do 2 quick quarter turns, and this will then put the boiler on and put it in deaeration mode with a code of 312. Now this will be in deaeration mode for 5 or 6 minutes, so after this time has passed, you will then be able to commission the boiler. Now, to flue gas analyse this boiler, you'll have to put both control knobs to minimum, then with the hot water control knob, 2 quick quarter turns will then turn the boiler on, and then put it in chimney sweep mode, which is 304. You can then use the central heating control knob to go between minimum and maximum for the fan speed to be able to do your flue gas analysing. So that's a quick look at the control knobs here at the front, and a few little tips for you to be aware of when you're first turning on and running the boiler. Now, shall we drop the flap down and have a look what we've got inside? So we've now can see the boiler. Now, another fault code. If you get 133 when you've just taken the cover down, drop the flap and move it back up again, one of the things it could be is this could have fallen out, the spark electrode lead, so the HT lead. So if you do get that fault on the front of your boiler, once you've taken the cover off and dropped the flap down, it could have either come down from there or come off there. So just be aware of that. It's comes off dead easy, I've found, while I've been dropping the flap down. Now, one of the things what's been brought to my attention from Big Gareth is, if we wire this up, then you can see we've got 2 great connectors coming in here for our power in and our stat, and it goes into this little tiny section here and then into where the electrics are. So remember guys, if you're going in here, you have to do your safe isolation tests and all the rest of it. So we've got like a little clip here which clips the top open for us, and you can see we've got our live, neutral and earth connection, and we've got our two 30 volt switching for our stat, Or down at the bottom end here, we've got our open therm and our weather comp. They all go in there, follow the manufacturer's instructions. They've also given us a little, if you can see that, they've also given us a little connection there. Tells us it's a 2 amp fuse. So we come to close it up. So we need to just move that out so we can close that up. We can close that little flap. So it's nice and secure. And then we can lift it up and it falls back down. So we've got 2 tiny little magnets, one there and one on that side, which go onto here and here. And when you've got the wires in, it don't do it. So you can see as you lift it up, the wires get trapped because that gap is only tiny. Now I know that's only something and nothing, but we got a big space over that side there. We could have done something there and brought it around, but no, this comes in there. I don't know, tiny little problem, but yeah. So, should we start at the top and work our way down like we normally do and find out exactly what components we've got in this Baxi 600, which we've now know is the same as the 800 and the main Eco Compact. Come on then, let's have a close look then. So what we're confronted with first is this lovely stainless steel heat exchanger, and we'll be having a look at that a little bit more closely soon. So if we go to the top here in the gloom, you can just see the fusible link at the top. So if anything happens to the heat exchanger, it goes over temperature, it knocks the boiler off. If we now go to the right, you can see this kind of a snorkel where it brings in the fresh air from just underneath the turret to the actual back of the fan. So that's where it's bringing the air, and that's where it mixes the gas and air in there. So if we come down to the bottom, you can see we've got a lovely Grundfos 1560 ERP pump. So that's a 6 meter head pump. So if we just move to the back of the pump, you should, that little white cap you can see there in the background, that's the auto air vent. And this, what you see in here, is a low water pressure sensor. If we come down to the front again, you can see the PRVs in the front, unlike some boiler manufacturers. And if we look there at the back, this is the flow turbine. And again, we'll look at that more closely soon. We've then got the SIT valve, the gas valve, and then we go to the left-hand side of the hydro block, and we've got the motor for the diverter valve and the diverter valve itself. This thermistor we've got down here is the hot water thermistor, and obviously that at the back there is the plate-to-plate heat exchanger. We've then got the fan and 2 sensors here. So this one here is the flow sensor, and this one is the manual reset over heat stat. And then we've got a stat there on the return. And you can't get them mixed up, the flow and return ones, because the return has these blue wires on and the flow has the red wires on. So you can't get them mixed up. Now this is a good little touch. So there's a tray here for if the water comes down the flue. It will collect on this tray and it will go down here and it will collect into the condensate trap and then go to drain. So we don't end up filling the boiler with water. So I've seen it on one other boiler, but yeah, that's not a bad little idea from Baxi. So that's a little quick tour around the boiler. So shall we take this front cover off and see what it's like inside? Come on then. So we're going to first of all remove the heat engine away from the heat exchanger. So first thing we need to do is disconnect the earth cable and then the HT lead. Remember, we can disconnect the HT lead from down at the bottom as well. So that's completely off now. So there is a screw here holding this silencer on, which has been removed, it's not here. So it's then just lift that off and take that out. Straightforward. So next we've got the gas connection. Now there's two ways of undoing the gas connection. There's one there where you can just pull the pin out and that should slide out. Or the easiest way is to undo the nut here. So if I get my adjustable spanner, and there should be an O-ring in there which is missing. So make sure you don't lose that. Remember, this is a demonstration boiler. So that's now undone. All we've got to do now is we've got these four 10mm nuts. So if I get them out of the socket, I'll just slacken them off. That's 1, 2. So last nut now, but we've still got the electrical connections for the fan, so we can't go tugging it yet. We just bring it forward, spin it around, and then there's two connections on the fan. That's 1, that's 2, and then there's an earth cable as well. So that's now brought the full heat engine out. So you can see there is like a rubber gasket around here. Now you don't have to change the rubber gasket all the time, but you do need to check the rubber gasket and make sure it's not damaged. We've then got our spark electrodes, which has got our flame rectification built in. So again, we need to make sure that we've got the right gap here, which is normally about 4mm. And then we've got our cut burner, which burns 360 degrees around. We've also got our heat shield here, because this is to stop this becoming hot. So they say it's a cold touch. Not that cold. It don't cool it that much, but there you go. And so we've got to make sure that this isn't damaged, and if this is damaged, then it will need to be replaced. And now you can see where the gas comes in here and the air goes in there. They're blended in the fan, which then blends it in this tube, which then burns it 360 once it's been ignited by the spark electrode. So that's the burner itself. It's pretty standard, like most burners with this type of heat exchanger. So let's look closely now into the heat exchanger. So now we can see the heat exchanger itself, and you can see it's the older two coil pass system rather than the one which is like the 28mm squashed. So this has two 10mm coils, so these are 10mm the size of them. Again, we've got a heat shield at the back, and again, if this is damaged, then it needs to be replaced. So cleaning them, again, when we come to clean them, you can't use anything abrasive in there, so anything metal. So clean off the debris, but they are incredibly easy to clean, and they do last quite a long time. They are very robust, a lot more robust than the aluminium heat exchangers. So pretty standard heat exchanger, you've seen them all before. And now we've got rid of the heat engine, we can now see all the other components a lot clearer. So let's have a look down at the water set, down at the bottom. Now the first thing I want to look at is this hose here, which feeds the expansion vessel. Now I do know this was changed from this model, because you can see this already isn't in a fantastic condition. And it's more of a stainless steel braided hose now. I'll put a picture so you can see it. So that's one thing I do know has changed. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the flow turbine, and we're going to take the flow turbine out and see the difference between the two turbines Baxi use. Now, this is a flow turbine rather than the bobbin type. So let's take a closer look at that then. So the first thing we need to do is actually take the Hall effect sensor off. So it just pops up, he says. So you can see now that's just popped up, and we can see that now. We'll go through that in a little bit more in a minute. So we need to get a spanner onto there. So again, if I get my adjustable spanner, I should be able to get on the top now the heat engine's not here, and undo it, which you can quite easily. So remember, this boiler hasn't had any water in it. So when I take this out, there's going to be no water gushing out. But Baxi have provided you with a little trick in a minute, and I'll show you that in a minute once we get this out. So this is quite tight. And there we go, we're out. So this has a magnets in here what spin round when the water comes through the filter here. So again, if you get on here, you don't get a solid red light on there, and it flickers. A lot of the time what it is either the filter's blocked here, or the magnets are stuck inside and they're not spinning around properly. So that's one check you can do when your hot water is running. But on the front cover here, when the water comes on, there's a tap symbol comes on, and that's normally a good indication that the sensor is working. If the tap doesn't come on, then it's normally that part of the sensor isn't working. So quite a few other manufacturers use this type of system. So that's the flow turbine rather than the bobbin type. You can see, pretty easy to come out. Now, what I wanted to show you was in this boiler they have put at the bottom a drain. It's like a groove what goes all the way around the base of the boiler, and they give you this little rubber plug. So you can take the rubber plug out and put a bucket underneath the boiler, and the water will go down there and not all over the board, because you want to protect the PCB. So that is a good little touch from Baxi, that you don't get water on the board. You still got to cover the board because you're taking stuff out, but I like that idea. That's a good idea. And again, there are a few other manufacturers give you kind of the same thing, but yeah, nice little touch that from Baxi. Makes it a lot easier to get the water out of the bottom of the boiler. So that's the flow turbine. Let's have a look at the diverter valve cartridge. So this is the diverter valve motor, and this is operated by your flow turbine. So when your flow turbine spins, it then sends a signal to the board, which then sends the 230 volts to the motor. Now, once I take the motor off, I'll show you. So first of all, there is a clip at the bottom down here, which you can remove. So there's just a clip holding the actual motor in. So we can now take the motor off and we can unplug it. So we've got three connections here. We've got the middle connection, which is the neutral, and then we've got two live connections, a number 1 and number 3. And what they do is it swaps the power between the two, which is either driving the motor in or driving the motor out. So again, we'll have a closer look at this in a minute once I get the actual cartridge out. So again, we need an adjustable spanner to get this out. It's actually already loose. So, you can use your grips on there, but I always like to use an adjustable spanner. So that just screws out, and you can now see, it's in a pretty bad way, that. Oh my word. That's absolutely been mullered. And the spindle doesn't even go up or down. It's been absolutely crushed, that. So that's not been well looked after, has it? So again, there are quite a few manufacturers who use this type of system. Some of them put them on the side like that, but Baxi like to put them at the top. Now, if they leak through the spindle there, a lot of the time it can damage the motor and go in there and burn the motor out as well. So if you do get it where the diverter valve isn't diverting over, it could be it's leaked up through the spindle, come through there and blown the motor. And also, if you get water coming out of here, a lot of you guys will have already seen stuff like this. All goes crusty. Straight away, it needs seeing to. You can't just leave it. So that's the very broken diverter valve cartridge. And again, Baxi have done two different types, and this one, well, if it was okay, would be interchangeable with a lot of the models Baxi have because they use the same water set. And I'll show you that now because I've got a couple of Baxis here anyway, so let's have a look at that. So this is a Baxi Duotech. It's a condensing boiler, and you can see it's kind of the same left-hand side of the hydro block. This is the low water pressure sensor, and obviously that's been moved, but you can still see the flow turbine's the same, kind of, at the back there, and the motor and the setup is pretty much the same. So you can see this is a tried and tested brass hydro block from Baxi, which they like, and a lot of engineers love the brass hydro blocks rather than the composite, because one good thing about the brass ones is you don't need to put those little mini shock arresters in if you've got brass, but you do if you're plastic, if you've got a water meter or a non-return valve, that is. So you can see even the older Baxis still have a lot of the same components in there because they're tried and tested and they work. Now, I've put it all back together again because I just want to do a little experiment. I want to see how easy it is to get the plate out, so the plate heat exchanger at the back here, without taking the heat engine out. Now we've just seen how easy it is to take out the heat engine. It's not a problem at all, but I just want to see how easy it is. So basically what we've got is two Phillips screws, one here and one down here. So I've got my little Aussie 2 here. So if it's a brand new plate, a little tip for you is to always just tighten it up a little bit first before you undo it, and it undoes a lot easier without rounding the heads, because they look brass screws, these, and they look like they're dead soft. So let's just do that with the other one. I don't know if this has already been done on this, but it probably has. It's probably been on and off like I don't know what. So undo it. So I'll undo this one, take this one right the way out. And I'll do this one. Oh, there we go, plate's off already. So again, this plug at the front here is great because obviously you'd get water coming out of here because you'd never be able to drain it completely. But there is a drain at the bottom on the pipe work, but I'll show you that later when we look down at the bottom. So, can I now get this plate out without removing anything? There you go. I could. I had to figure out that I had to bring it this way around, but you can see the plate is out. You can also see that these are offset. That one's right in the middle and that one's slightly offset. So you can't get it the wrong way around. But there isn't an arrow to tell you which way around it goes. So, but I can see that one there is the offset side. So the inline side is on the pump side and the offset side is on the other side, on the float side, on the hydro block where the diverter valve is. So that was easy. Always make sure as well, guys, you change your O-rings on the back. So there's two on that one anyway. Oh, I can just get my hand in there. And there's definitely one on there, and there's definitely one on there. So if this was all crusty and you'd be changing the O-rings. So that's how easy it was to get the plate off. That's about as much as I'm going to go now, stripping this down, because time's dragging on. We're already way over half an hour. So let's, as usual, finish off on inside a boiler casing by having a look at the pipe configurations down below. So now we can see the valves underneath the actual boiler itself. So let's start left to right. So this is our flow pipe and this is the drain I was talking to you about. So you can isolate the valves here and then you're able to drain the boiler without using the pressure relief valve. Then we've got the condensate. Then we've got the hot water out. Then we've got our gas connection. So on the gas connection here, there is a test nipple, and on this test nipple, we need no more than a 1 millibar drop from our meter. So basically, we need an inlet pressure here of between 18 and 22 millibars. If we look on the gas valve quickly, we've got our inlet test pressure here, and Baxi are saying they want at least 17 millibars here. So let's get back to the valves underneath. So now this here, if you can just see it, is the blow off. Now what I've been told by Big Gareth, is always put your blow off in first and start your pipe connections from right to left. It will make it a lot easier. Also, you can see we've got the built-in filling loop here. Baxi have two types, this type which is on the 6 and the 800, and there's another type which goes on the main, which we'll see in a minute. But another way we can do this to keep our pipes square is by making a blank up for this. So basically two pieces of pipe which are, I think it's 65 millimeters apart, I think they are. I'll have to check that and I'll put a comment down at the bottom if I'm wrong. But you can actually make something up which you can keep in your box with just a couple of tap connectors and a couple of elbows. So you'll always be able to get on to the nuts, because you can see when the actual filling loop is built up, it's damn impossible to get on the nuts. So these need to be kept square, these two. These can go on slight angles, but these need to be square because of the filling loop. So let's see how this filling loop works and finish off by having a look at that. Now, if you get a flashing blue light with a 118 error code, then it probably means your water pressure is low. So we need to keep the water above the 1 and in this green section. So all we need to do is go under the boiler. Like I say, pull this little green lever down and it'll allow the water into the system. So while you're watching the gauge and the water coming up into the green section, once the blue light goes out, the boiler will now reset itself and it's all ready to go for heating and hot water. So that's how you top up this Baxi 600. This is the filling loop for the main Eco Compact. And it's pretty much the same as the 6 or the 800 to fill it up. So you can see the pressure gauge is reading 0 and we need to get it above the 1 in the green section. So we need to go down to the filling loop. This one here on the return, we need to open this valve fully so it's in line with the pipe, so that's fully open. And then this one on the cold water, we can just crack it open a little bit. So the water now will come into the system
and we wait for the pressure to rise just above the 1. So we need to go between the 1 and 1.5 in the green section. Once we're happy that we're in the right pressure, we can now close both the valves, and it's as simple as that. So that's how you top up all the Baxi boilers.
Now, you've just seen from the video that you have to pull the green lever down on this filling loop to actually keep it running. Now, Gareth showed me a little tip here, and I don't know if Gareth made it up or he's been told by other engineers, but there's some little plugs here which block off the electrical sides which come with every boiler, but you're going to be putting wires through there, so at least one of them is going to be spare. And he just says, get hold of it, pull the green lever down, slide it into the back of the green lever, and it will hold the lever open for you. What a great tip that is. And then when you're finished with it, just leave it in the bottom of the boiler for the next person. So that's the end of this video on the look on the Baxi 600. Remember, it's the same as the 800 or the main compact or eco compact. So yeah, pretty easy to work on. Obviously there's no water in this, but it was pretty easy to work on. I do like a few of the touches that Baxi have done, the piping up the back and the little plug in the bottom and stuff like that. Still think twisting knobs is not very good, because at the end of the day they are digipots on the back of the board. Is that going to wear out? Prefer to go and see better screens, but other than that, not a bad boiler. So if you've liked this video, why don't you give me that old thumbs up, or put a constructive comment down below. Now if you think they're amazing, put it down there. If you think they're rubbish, that's your opinion. But if you're not subscribed to my channel, then please subscribe, because it helps. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because you know I release videos mainly on Mondays and Wednesdays. All I've got left to say is, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and thanks to Dave and Gareth again for organising for me to have a look at this boiler. Cheers guys!